You will travel no further because you are come. Here, you are at the beginning of time.
Here was conceived and lived the great week of the creation of the world and the separation of the earth from the water. You are at the house of the Father.
In this house of the Father, each pharaoh thought of himself as a son and wished to leave his mark upon it.
Each added, superimposed, overdid, undid, through a span of 20 centuries.
The result is this fabulous labyrinth of facades and passages, esplanades and corridors, perspectives and detours, to which only priests and pharaoh had access.
The Egyptian is at ease in the circumvolutions of the divine. He is at home with the science of the beyond. He has a taste for side exits, secret passages, concealed staircases, the phosphorescent gloom of tombs. The vade-mecums, the guidebooks for the journey which accompanied the mummy, are called Book of the Dead, Book of the Gateways, Book of the Caverns, Book of the Night. They are the only books ever to attempt to produce maps of the other world. Shepherd's crook that gathers in the dust of the stars. His left hand fondles the wild ram walking with him. He is the god of the first day. It is he who is called Amun. At the very mention of his name, priests bow the head, and mere mortals prostrate themselves in the dust. Sometimes ram and god blend together, and the curly-browed sphinx can be seen leading the flock, like this one at the court of Karnak.
Hear me. I, who am merely the surveyor of these ruins. These tumbled esplanades, these terraces, and these sanctuaries. I found the ancient flood peaks of the Nile, inscribed on a scale which it's only fitting to call Nilometer. These masses of symmetrical architecture that frame the stairs, masking the inner temples, were called pylons by the first visiting travelers. It is a name to describe a pillar. On a gigantic scale. Most of these pylons are hollow, honeycombed with inner stairways leading to the ramparts of heaven. These pylons have exterior sockets into which festive banners were fixed with hooks of bronze. But don't try to count the columns, the colossi, the sphinxes, the obelisks, or the capitals. Try rather with every step you take in this 20-century-old worksite to hear the whispered response of the ever-present God.
It was here, in Karnak, that he who is called Amun sat upon a hillock and thought the world into being during the floods of the month of July.
For this land, Upper Egypt, upon which the most grandiose structure of the world rises, this land is said to have been the first to have risen from the primeval waters. And it was upon this land where the swarms of wild duck alighted, the only land above the floodwaters, that men have built a city of God to the glory of his creation.
In the time of its full splendor, this citadel could only be reached by a royal canal, the sacred Amun. The pharaoh, aboard his barge of glory, could moor here, welcomed on the holy quayside in the shade of the sycamores by the pontiff and his numberless retinue of priests with their feather fans.
Do not be overwhelmed by the sheer size of these rooms.
The citadel that arose here was not designed on the scale of men, but on the grand scale of God, from whom all things flowed. The drought and the flood, the granaries and the plagues, dreams and power, death and survival.
The great French archaeologist Champollion, who had awakened the cackling, twittering farmyard of the hieroglyphics rather in the manner of the sleeping beauty, when he came here, was amazed. Listen.
All the pomp and magnificence of the pharaohs appears at Karnak. All the noblest and finest works of man. No other ancient people has conceived the art of architecture on so large, grandiose, and sublime a scale as the ancient Egyptians. They thought in terms of men 100 feet in stature.
And if one of you this evening were to voice the question that you are whispering in your house, who art thou, Amun? The answer would seep from these walls, these lintels, these pedestals, these secret chambers, these piled ruins. For the answer is written everywhere, in 1,000 different hieroglyphs.
I am the father of fathers, the mother of mothers, and the born of 7 celestial kinds. I open my mouth to speak in the midst of silence. I cause to be that men should have a path on which to tread. I open the eyes of all that they might see. My right eye is the day. My left eye is the night. And the waters of the Nile spurt from my sandals.
Amun has held this fortress from the 12th dynasty, but with one eclipse, the time of a dissenting pharaoh, the time of a pharaoh who was a poet, the time of Akhenaten, who invented humanism, the time of his love for the all-too-human Nefertiti, whose beauty still haunts us even today.
Amun, the father of all things, had for wife the goddess Mut, who sat a little below him, wearing a royal headdress of vulture feathers. Near to the father and the mother is the son, Hans, standing rigid as a mummy, with a crescent moon picked out upon his oblong head. They made up the Karnak triad, the Holy Family, for whom, and for 2,000 years, ceaselessly, complex fortifications were built by the hands of men. Conceived that more than one resting place was needed for the sacred barks of the Holy Family. So, midway between the sanctuary and the river, I brought into being this edifice, a veritable temple with pylons guarded by Colossi, peristyle courtyard, pillared hall, and sanctuary. Henceforth, it shall be here that the 40 tonsured priests in 8 ranks of 5 shall halt, bearing the Ark of God along the way to the landing stage when the time comes for the gods' journey to Luxor, for the festival of Opet upon the high waters. And my temple shall also tell how I conquered the peoples of Asia and Africa.
Yet one day, even the temple of Ramses III was no more than an edifice in the corner of the vast courtyard where we are this evening. The pharaohs came and went. The new year returned in mid-July, with the impassive rising of the waters. And during the second month of flood, there was the beautiful festival of Opet.
Then, as every summer, we would have witnessed the passing by of the 3 barks of the Holy Family, borne aloft on the strong arms of men. The bark of Amun decorated a crown poop with ram's heads.
The bark of Nut, his wife, decorated with female figures wearing locks.
And the bark of their son Horus, decorated with 2 falcon heads, surmounted by the crescent moon. For the bark is the symbol of the movement, the pedestal of God. It is the throne of the bearer, the instrument of war and building. The civilization that erected the columns and colossi of Karnak was a river civilization.
It was by bark that the rose-colored granite, the dialect and alabaster were lifted. Each flight varied tons of raw stone shaped and molded in the everlasting works.
There is something profoundly moving in comparing the tremulous, almost fluid inspiration of the Karnak work and the hardness of the stone in which they wish to immortalize the bending of a reed or the drooping wing of a cormorant.
A specimen of of the papyrus-capped gracious colonnade, and an alabaster block that served as an altar for the divine ark.
I, a pharaoh whose name is lost, so many contradictions are graven on my pedestal. I left the symbolic image of all the pharaohs. This gigantic statue, rising against the western side of the second pylon, clasping to its legs the tiny figure of a beloved queen.
And I, Ramesses II, the grand elder of the Ramessid dynasty, the flame of the 19th dynasty, I claim the honor more than 3,000 years ago of having completed this second pylon you are about to pass. At its foot, I placed the stela telling of the victory of Kamoses over the Hyksos from the east.
These are the mighty stone organ pipes of Karnak.
Let's listen to the confused hum of words that seem to seep from these words, echoing the inscriptions of signatures and prayers. Let's dream this forest of symbols.
No one could express our wonder better than the great French Egyptologist Champollion when he himself came here.
Imagination fails, falls lifeless at the feet of these 134 columns of the Karnak hypostyle.
The columns are all inspired by the omnivorous papyrus of the river, which brought to Egypt both its grace and its knowledge. Some of the columns are open, that is to say, their capitals are open, while others are closed, like the flowers in the bud. The hypostyle chamber was built by Seth I between the second and third pylons, and he decorated a large part of the walls and columns with reliefs. The decoration was completed by Ramesses II, who used not reliefs this time, but summer reliefs. This hypostyle chamber is the mother of all the three nave basilicas which later were inspired.
The function of this chamber is essentially both religious and imperial. The physical presence of Amun was there in the form of a statue transported on a bark, and Pharaoh came here to regenerate his soul, since he reigned over Upper and Lower Egypt, in other words, over the universe.
Thou hast thrown open the horizons and brought all the gods into being.
I worship thee, Amun.
O Lord, thy mother, creator of multitudes, king of the gods, sovereign of the four plumes, thou, the great four.
Thou who givest the breath of life to all things, and instillest joy into the hearts of men.
O Amun, give me strength
and joy. I bear thee 3 bondos as an offering, O Lord, that, clad in all thy glory, thou mayest keep watch until the night, and give health and strength to thy son, the Pharaoh, king of the south and north, chief of all thy living creatures, forever.
Here is the white bondo,
that the light which is thy look may shine.
Here is the green bondo,
that the life-giving waters may bring flowers and make green the earth.
And you don't get a sense of that at all. It's really quite somewhere.
No, we didn't. We were around that
Third. But the history of reigns and events seems so insignificant compared to the imperishable testimony of faith. Men are so made that they remember better the invisible than the real.
2,000 years of royal annals, festivals, mourning, battles, love stories, intrigues, expeditions, mingle here like the myriad leaves of a tree.
The 17,000 of bronze, not to mention the wooden ones that have not withstood the onslaught of time. Kings, queens, priests, dignitaries, standing, sitting, or kneeling. The third gives us an idea of the prodigious opulence of Karnak.
Our journey to the heart of the night will now take us under the stars.
Faced with the powerful mystery of Amun and the amazing network of the god's defenses, we feel insignificant, exiled as a mere mortal at the gates of the tomb.
The mortal came to the gates with all his poor life possessed. His black shadow that followed him upon the plaster of the walls, upon the soil of the fields, and the surface of the water. And a strange winged creature, perhaps his soul, sang in his heart.
It is time to climb to the high terrace to see Thebes slumbering beside her father, the Nile.
Perhaps the open sky will make things clearer to us. This sacred lake, on the banks of which you have come to dream, for one can only understand by dreaming, this mirror set in the rock has reflected the finest firework display of antiquity.
A dazzling gleam that has lasted 20 centuries. As soon as one cluster of stars faded, another pharaoh fired another salvo. And this will be named forever the Splendor of Thebes.
For the light that faded to the north at the foot of the pyramids arose again, here upon the Acropolis of the high valley over which Amun was to reign. And Thebes reconquered Egypt, imposed the force of her arms over the surrounding country, founded merchant exchanges, cemented alliances, and brought to the feet of Amun the tribute of all the glorious, submissive cities, Byblos, Nineveh, and Babylon.
It has been said that Thebes was the first city, the city of cities. Homer named it the city of 100 gates. For 100 trumpets sounded its fame.
And what did the archaeologist Champollion say?
Thebes is the greatest word in any language.
She spread along the banks of the Nile, a rich capital city, along the horizon of the east bank as far as your eyes can see, enveloping Luxor upstream, and touching the periphery of Karnak downstream with the fronds of her palm trees. Karnak, the obscure, the mysterious, from which she drew the leaven of her power. 100 trumpets shrill thy name, O Thebes, and echo thy beauty. Here, along the Nile, crowded thy palaces, thy public buildings, thy embassies, the villas of thy ministers.
Only the gods have endured. The houses of men, built of fragile clay, have left no trace, have faded like a mirage.
And yet they were pleasant houses. Their floors painted with the lotus flower, their walls with frescoes of flights of wild duck, their wooden galleries, their trellises, their arbors, and their maidens clad in transparent garments.
The cases of papyrus scrolls tell us the titles of the poems that trembled on the maiden's lips.
The lover's sycamore.
Lovers bathing.
Waiting for her love.
Only the cases have come down to us. The papyrus scrolls they contained have reverted to dead leaves. This verse that was found hardly stirs an echo in our memories.
Your love is in my heart like the reed in the arms of the wind.
And the fragile, iridescent image we have of Thebes is the one that the dead have taken with them to the depths of their tombs.
Look now over the river to the west bank, where the sun sets every evening behind the Valley of the Kings.
It is the shore of the dead, the beginning of the beyond.
If some lights are still shining in the necropolis, it means that the embalmers are late at their work.
Their patron is Anubis, the somber god who prowls like a black dog around the cemeteries. Their god is Osiris, who knows all the secrets of the resurrection and watches 70 nights over the mummification workshops and the endless swaths of wrappings.
The first arrivals in the tomb from the other bank long contemplated the great construction site of Karnak, ceaselessly humming with the activity of their successors.
This is the grand archaeological site where they all brought their stone and their prayers. For this divine city of Karnak, a ceaselessly growing collective work, ceaselessly improved, ceaselessly reshaped, is much more than just a temple. The pharaoh drew from it his legitimacy, his crown, and his energy. He brought to it his homage and his victories. He came to it to seek renewal and strength in his disappointments, to seek comfort and draw the sap of it into his soul. He was a mere leaf on the tree, a tree that plunged its powerful roots through the blocks of stone. We can still almost feel it quivering.
We shall only dwell on that instant when the lights seem to flicker, when the torch of Amun seems to be going out.
We are at the turning point of the 18th and 19th dynasties.
Love. The heretical pharaoh took the name of Akhenaton, devoting himself to his new worship, his poems, his prophecies, his new city of El Amarna.
And Karnak seemed to be relegated to the shadows. But the new religion lasted only as long as its inventor. The chisel, ruin, and fire all conspired to obliterate his image.
The new pharaoh was a child.
This child was to restore the ancient worship.
He rekindled 1,000 lamps at the abandoned temples of Karnak. He took the traditional name. And if his earthly life was short, since he died in his adolescence, his posthumous glory eclipses that of all the others. For his name is Tutankhamun.
His makeshift tomb was dug in the very floor of the Valley of the Kings, over there.
It escaped the looters for 3,000 years. And in 1922, everything was there.
The sarcophagi, one inside the other. The statues, the jewels of gold, the sacred and profane furniture, the alabasters, the porcelains, that prodigious treasure that still draws the crowds, and that mask encrusted with lapis lazuli and cornelian, which stares at us from the depths of the night with the enigmatic smile of an immortal young man.
We must descend even lower than the tombs to understand the origin of this strange gleam that seems to outlive even the ruins, and almost to materialize in the obelisks. Needles of stone, torn from the rising sun, often inlaid with an alloy of gold and silver, they stand proudly gleaming above Luxor, above Karnak.
meditating upon the being who created me, when the voice of my heart spoke, telling me to make 2 golden obelisks for him. My spirit took fire, thinking of what the men who would later see these monuments would say. They would say, "Why this mountain of gold?" But my dream was beyond my power. My 2 obelisks were not of gold, but a single stone, hard granite without a join, and the expedition to bring the stone to me took 7 months.
Pylon, I can see the largest raft ever built, floating down the Nile in the time of the floods. Bucks are there to guide us. Flat on its flanks are 2 stones of rose granite. They are the obelisks of the Queen. It is the expedition to Aswan returning. Glory to Queen Hatshepsut. May she live forever.
I shall add this. Thinking of future men who will not have seen the realization of my dream of gold, I wish at least that they may be able to say this: that my mouth was excellent in the words that issued from it, and that even in granite, I never went back on my word.
Torn from their native land, today obelisks rise in all the capitals of the modern world. In Rome, Paris, London, Istanbul, New York.
Above the vain tumult of cities, these stones stand like fingers raised for silence, preserving the tradition of ancient Egypt's meditation.
Farewell, sweet Queen Hatshepsut. Your memory pervades the evening like the fragrance of your incense. You who, to honor Amun, sent an expedition beyond the Red Sea to the kingdom of Punt to seek that precious tree that you succeeded in transplanting to the sacred orchards in Karnak, the incense tree.
Days of respite left to forget the passage of time before a new year returns on the 19th of July.
Each day has been divided into 24 hours. But summer and winter, day and night both have 12 hours.
In summer, the night hours are short, and in winter they stretch out lazily. This implies the permanent labor of many teams around the clepsydras, kinds of water clocks, in which the minutes flow drop by drop.
The flooding of the river, the responses of the oracles, the ever-perfected impedimenta of the dead, the destiny of Pharaoh, the interpretation of dreams, the mood of the crocodiles, the sulking of a heron, the training of choir boys. All these are part of the program of Karnak.
And the breath of Amun turns the machinery of the world in the heart of the Forbidden City.
But each year, the harvest done, the grapes gathered, when the new wine rises to the head, Amun takes a short holiday.
Silence! Here come the standards and banners that open the procession.
The bark mortars are moving up again from their resting point. There's the ram's head at the prow of the divine bark.
The barks of Mut, Horns, and the Pharaoh are following in order. And you can just make out the baskets of fruit and flowers through the plumed parasols.
The front of the procession has reached the landing stage. Amun is hoisted on his vessel, and it swings to face the current. But the current is strong, and the bare-chested men in the towing tugs row for all their worth. And they'd never succeed if the men on the bank were not hauling on the cables. Listen to the Darabuka players, rhythming the oarsmen. One behind the other, you can see the divine barks as dazzling as the sun. The sacred fleet has reached Luxor. Luxor. Let the peoples hold the Hadim of God.
And how could it be better expressed?
It was the king. Man.
To all the riddles here, we must reply, God.
And Amun, who reigns forever here, is not a god to be taken lightly.
He is a god of the beginning, when the earth and the waters were still mingled, as were the animals and men. He is a complex god, as powerful as the creation.
Amun announced the salvation of man.
He also announced the salvation of the crocodile and the scarab, everything that moves, of the flowers of the earth. He deigned to assume the guise of a ram, a falcon, a goose, or a bull. He offered equality to all the companions of the universe.
And the language of the hieroglyphics is like this overwhelming faith, which, thanks to the floods of the Nile, raised these pylons, these colonnades, these obelisks.
May these hieroglyphics come to life once more, to bid farewell to you, new pilgrims to Upper Egypt. Like a sudden flight of a myriad sacred birds, their spread wings sprinkling the droplets of the river, like a benediction. which he is seated is seen the figure of Queen.
You give me 10.
Of Queen T.
So I owe you 5.
Queen T is not depicted in proportion as being unimportant, and the king is being so large, but here the significance. And you can purchase these objects as we go to the various sites in the Western Bank. They also make statues and all kind of stonework. They make vases and dishes and ashtrays of this alabaster, which is very attractive. So this will be a place where you will find such objects if you are seeking to buy such souvenirs. The Ramesseum is on our right-hand side, and this is this. It was actually composed of a pylon behind this one, the first pylon, which is the great pile of stones that we saw from the bust. It was followed by an open court, and then this is the second pylon, the back of the second pylon, restored to preserve some of the scenes of the Battle of Kadesh. Then we have this court, and it's followed by the Hypostyle Hall and the Hall of Appearances and the sanctum. So it's a very straightforward plan. And in these dwellings, a very important papyri was found. Ramses II erected a statue in this temple, which was larger than any of the statues that were ever built in ancient Egypt before that time and after that. We are going to step into this portico to be able to see.
Oh, the toes. Oh, my word. Comparing the toenails. This is the toenail comparison.
This is the toenail. This is the toenail temple.
Toenail temple.
TT.
At least 3 times bigger.
Fun?
About 3 times bigger.
Well, it's one quarter. I think it was 1/4 of the.
What was the case?
It's like a
statue, and it, in the earthquake, it fell on its back. And what we can see from here is the break, but we can see the 2 elbows on both sides of the break. This statue inspired Diodorus, and Shelley wrote the famous poem that we are going to listen to right now.
Said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
It's a fine statue, unlike those of Ramses II, but it's of the same king. It's not a usurped statue. On the back of this, on this lower part of the statue, you would like to see. Also, in the Hypostyle Hall, we have another inscription of Battista Bilzoni giving the year of his visit to this place.
1841, something like that. 1816. Who?
1816.
1816. Oh.
The taller columns, and then outside we have lower columns and then windows on both sides, as you see. The capitals of the columns of the nave still preserve the color of the lotus and papyrus and the cartouches of Ramesses II, and you always look backwards, you will see that the Colossus has just fallen in or along the axis of the temple. In the representation of the decans, just in the zenith, in my zenith here. These holes, which you see there, are to support a plinth of a semi-precious metal, which decorated the plinths at the doors as we come into the temple. The sanctuary like the obelisk, remember that the holes that we saw in the obelisk for the representation of the sky. The sanctuary comes after this second hole, but it has been completely destroyed and built in the 35th century BC. So this is not a new method that has been introduced, but this has existed for a very long time in Egyptian brickwork and in Egyptian brick architecture. There's also another method which the Egyptians used in brickwork, and that is by corbelling, and that the bricks sort of stand out in a cantilever system until they span over the aperture of the chamber which you are building. In a more simple explanation, it would be like a reversed steps that are stepping this direction where Deir al-Bahari is seen. You can see a group of people on top of the mountain. You can see a group of people just in line with these barrel roofs. That is where you are going to be that will be your pathway. You will go up that ramp, which is to the right of them. You will reach that point, and then you will, I don't know where do you want to go?
I made a complete fool of myself in a group of 30 people. I get up and I said, now, if you all want to take pictures, this is your time to dawdle, as much as you like. You can dawdle. Dawdle with a funny string. What? So dawdle, you know. Take your time. And you dawdle. What? Well, I have to look at this
pyramid here, don't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. When we did all of our furniture, we were all performing the gala furniture.
Hey, Eddie! Boys, what Eddie?
This one? Yeah, back. Huh? Get it, I'm sure.
Go to the next road.
Yeah, I'll say something.
I can't face it out.
We're beating them. It's a race.
Did I bend her?
Well, I hope not.
Chariot, right?
Didn't their wheels fall off?
Well, these wheels look kind of bowed in. I felt so badly about those gowns falling in the water.
Hi, Jack.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
This is as bad as India, isn't it?
Drop it.
Level down below.
Maybe staying in the middle.
Could we go down one more line?
Could we?
نعرف نخلص البتاعة دي ونمشي. So, if you are coming from the Nile at the time of the temple, of the building of the temple, you would have walked at a higher level on an avenue of sphinxes that extends from the Nile to the temple. That level would have been higher than the urban site that surrounds it, because the floodplain would have been lower than what it is now. But with the rising...
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes?
Can everyone hear?
Oh, yeah. Yes?
Okay. The special evening continues. We have some very special folks on this trip, and I think all of you will agree that they are very special, but there's one in particular that has something very special that is cause for celebration. And so tonight I would like to make a small celebration and let it begin.
a promise.
For those of you who do not know, today we may be stretching it a bit. Yesterday, but yesterday was a late dinner, so it's the anniversary of 13 years ago Nabil discovered his first pyramid, and I think that is an exceptional reason for celebration. We have enjoyed all of his knowledge and everything that he has shared with us because of this, and what more appropriate than something that really says your own pyramid. Now then, before everything continues, we have two ladies here who would like to say a word. Come to the center.
Oh, to commemorate October 26, 1977.
Louder.
Can we talk loud?
Shut up. Here's to Nabil the Noble. Travels are virtually global. The museums he advises are complex, but he also helps ladies buy dresses.
You know who's that?
Yeah. The pyramid and sphinx at Giza were nothing more than a teaser. Heat hottest Sahara, we trudged to explore Saqqara. We plunged into tombs like Hattie.
Stereo.
Examining temples, Dendra, and Seti. We learned of Ramses, Sesostris, Akhlaq. All gone, but never forgotten. Of Hatshepsut, Neptiteres, Horeb, not one alive, all alas, dead. Osiris and Isis and Horus and Nebus and Nut. Nabel and Tarek know all. In French, the toot. This is all too pharaonic. Please don't assume we're moronic. We know Nabil discovered old Sankey, an event that made Egyptologists leap. So, before we return to Semiramis, let's extol the great man of the pyramid!
I'd like to hear one for the authoress.
Now we have 158.
Speech. Just before the speech, we have something else. Some small tokens of our appreciation. For your anniversary.
Let him see it first.
That's profession. Oh. Lovely, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Never seen one like that.
Somebody says, thank you.
So everyone has had their say. If you have not had a chance to sign it, please do come and sign it afterwards, because we want him to have a little autograph from all of us on this special occasion. It's not every day that we get to dine and travel with someone who's discovered a pyramid. Does anybody else know someone who's discovered a pyramid? Can you help us with one more song?
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. This is a very happy occasion. I never knew that the 13th anniversary of CT would be celebrated with such sweetness.
Very lucky.
And with such nice people. And I thank you very much. And now, my pyramid list, which lists 137 pyramids, will be added to, and it will be 138. Yeah!
Okay.
Well, now how do I cut it?
Any man that excavate a pyramid should be able to cut it.
Excavation. Oh, is there something inside? A cola corridor.
You may have a trick.
Is that towards the north?
Yeah, that's towards the north. Ask Mr. Day.
And then go through the corner that we're not sure is ever. Well done.
Okay.
Okay.
Now this is to the north.
This is the north.
Where'd you come from?
Experience of these things.
To line them up correctly.
Was there a little masala inside of there?
Yes. There's a small cracker jack.
Oh, okay. We'll find out.
I would like to thank everyone very much for their help with us. Niles for your trumpet, ladies for their poem, our chef here for the beautiful creations that came.
Navy blue, brown. This would be nice.
It's a very impressive temple because it is one of the best preserved temples in Egypt. We have two, the Temple of Dendera that we visited a few days ago and the Temple of Edfu. But this gives us the best example of ancient Egyptian architecture of temples. And behind this wall, unfortunately we cannot see it from here, there was the very great enclosure wall surrounding the whole complex, and that is known as the Temenos wall. And here what we can see is the main body of the temple. And it was it was going to be just air, nothing here. So they built this part right here to fill up the beginning of the girdle wall of the ambulance. Now we're walking through here, and this is going through the pylon. Well, here we are standing. In front of us is the great pylon. Behind us is the Nanisi, which is the house of birth. And what we see in the pylon is the king giving his offerings of the enemies of Egypt. He's holding all his enemies of Egypt from their hair. You see that? In front of the figure of Horus right here. And you notice that this is a style that started from the early dynastic period that we're going to see on the left of Narmer, where the king is shown smiting his enemy. And from that time, where my dad is walking, there is the main entrance through the pylon. And on top of that, there is a very heavy lintel, which is very finely carved, and it's still painted. It still has colors still surviving up to today of the god Horus that we have visited. This is the part of the mud brick temenos wall, and you can see that it has some arches represented here, and this is where people lived, where the high priests lived in ancient times, and then later on, throughout the medieval periods, people used to live up there. Now we're going to walk inside, and we're going to see the interesting. So Horus is still here. Horus is still here. Horus has always been here.
Sorry. That's how you could get that, and then it still has Karnak.
No, that's not. I don't want to spoil it.
Oh, good. Okay. Excellent.
So, imagine the door. Yeah, wooden door. Yes. Now, something very interesting here is that when the temple was at its peak of glory, everything in the temple was very well maintained. Things were very well fixed. The high priests were very wealthy, and there was no problem in anything. So these doors were used to open and close very easily. I mean, not that easy. They used to open and close, and that's it. Okay. What was that? Yeah. But later on, when the temple started going down hill and things were not going as they wanted them to go, and the temple was not as wealthy as before, the wood of the door warped by time. So lubrication methods were not provided for the wood, so it warped. So what happened when the wood warped? It was very difficult for them to open and close that door. Okay? It was squeaking. And when it warped more, the door could not open nor close at all. And that was at the when it was really in bad shape. So what they did was that they started scraping the walls here and finding a solution for that problem of closing and opening the door. So they started scraping the stone here so that it would be easy for them to open. And you can here see the sockets on both sides and up in the open court, which is surrounded by porticos on all sides. And this part of the temple is the first Hypostyle Hall, and then after that we will see the Hall of Appearances, and then that will lead to the main sanctuary inside. This is the famous Horus, excuse me, the Colossus of Horus. It's a double crown puppet. Very, very fine, very picturesque. Upper and lower.
Have you ever seen that?
Careful when you walk here.
Can you see now?
What?
It's like a track. Oh no, it's not. It's like it did. It looked like a track here. Wow. It's weird.
Das ist natürlich eine dramatische Hochsteigerung von etwas, was in der griechischen Welt eigentlich Horus
And on this side, this wall, we have scenes that show and he helping the god Horus in killing the symbol of the god Set. What is the symbol of the god Set? And you can see that it is represented in different positions. He is here being stabbed with the harpoon, with a spear, and he's looking back. Here he is here upside down. And you can see that on here he's just trying to explain the famous story of Isis and Osiris and Horus. Right here. This is the Nile god. This one. Okay, and this is a woman. This is a man, and this is a woman. And these are the different towns of Egypt represented.
Should rain everywhere, things that stick out. So I guess it would just then drop down. Yeah, I guess it would. Except what about in between? Yeah.
Store more food and drink for the future. Okay. Today this leads to nothing.
Yeah.
No, here, I can start more. 18 columns. At Isna, there are 24 columns. Okay. Yeah, here is only how many? So the temple of Isna that we visited yesterday was originally much larger and greater than the temple of Isna. And this gives you an idea of the scale of the and how big the temple of Isna that we visited originally looked like. One axis, no interruption whatsoever. And of course all these halls have original doors at these just before these halls. You'd notice that when here we have all the priests carrying the barge, as well as the king himself is here represented. And then the barge of Horus, poured out in the figure of Horus, the head of Horus, and then on top there is the shrine where there is the statuette of the god. So here is the sanctuary, the inner sanctuary. And you notice that, of course, here we have this light, but originally it is much darker than the rest of the temple. It's a very dark room, and the temple is built in a certain way that the ceilings get lower and lower as you approach the Holy of Holies. And this is the lowest we can get. We get in the temple. Who came inside the temple here would have this mysterious feeling and this humble feeling as he approached, or as they approached, the Holy of Holies, because this is the most secret part of the temple, is the house of the god right here. Here we have the platform where the barge of the god would be placed, with a shrine and a statuette inside. But here we have another naus, and that is the naus, which is here is quite magnificent, because it's made of one piece of granite stone, one piece, monolithic block of limestone, granite stone, and it also had another statue of the god inside. If you look at the upper part of the naus, you see that it is a small pyramid form on top. And this would probably have been covered with a layer of electrum, which is that mixture of silver and gold together. And what happened when the sun just was shining over the hole up there? It would go. So the impression must have looked really magical.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very fine. Very fine work, as you can see. And then also on top, there are winged vultures and discs of the sun, all represented here. Very, very fine work.
Yeah, take a picture.
I did quite a bit of light. You're going to home and have nothing, girl.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yes, yes, yes. When I do it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's my favorite. I tell you, Calvin Coolidge is my hero. You're into Calvin Coolidge, Wendy?
Please start taking your horse carriages back to the boat at 10 to 10.
The dueling cameras.
Population of a quarter of a million. It had always been an important site in Egypt because of the formation of granite and the location of the first cataract, which we will see when we drive over the old Aswan Dam.
No, I don't know much about the We reached the granite, and after sailing all the way up the Nile. We've been in the sandstone. You see how the valley got very narrow, and everybody was at lunch when we went by by the quarry. Here we are at the first cataract. It was formed by this very
is this amorphous, homogeneous, actually, rock. It's not static, it's an igneous rock. It comes from deep into the bowels of the earth. It's liquid and it cools. It cools fairly slowly, and you can see because the crystals are rather large in this granite. Some granites are more fine grained than others. Homogeneous.